Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's episode of Presidio C-Suite Perspectives, where we speak with technology leaders about management, leadership, culture, team building, and technology trends. One quick note, this event is being recorded and will be posted on Presidio.com in our video library. If you have any further questions or requests following our conversation, please contact us at inquiries@Presidio.com or visit our website. We're fortunate this week to have with us the CEO of one of the fastest growing infrastructure technology companies in many years, Pure Storage. Pure practically created the flash drive market and has continued to innovate and delight its clients. We'll talk with CEO Charlie Giancarlo about how he sees where the industry is heading, how companies can get ready for the upturn, how technologists can become CEOs, diversity, and what it's like to have COVID-19. Charlie has a 3-decade track record of driving growth and innovation at leading global technology companies. Before Pure, he served as senior advisor at Silver Lake Partners, where he was a leader in Silver Lake's acquisition and management of Skype, among many other duties. Prior to Silver Lake, he served in expanding senior executive roles at Cisco Systems, including executive vice president and chief development officer. During his 14 years at Cisco, Charlie was a leader of Cisco's multi-product, multi-market growth, driving entry into new markets, including Ethernet switching, Wi-Fi, IP telephony, and telepresence. He currently serves on the boards of Arista Networks and Zscaler, is a trustee of Brown University, and an advisor to the UC Berkeley School of Engineering. He is a former board member of Accenture, Avaya, Imperva, Netflix, and ServiceNow. Please welcome Charlie Giancarlo. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Bob, how are you doing? I'm doing great.
I am doing good as well, and I'm glad to hear you're doing great, because I understand that you were afflicted with COVID-19. You look good. You feeling good?
Thank you. No, I'm back to 100%. It's been 8 weeks now since my illness, and it's not pleasant. I now have a full set of antibodies, but I don't recommend the current method for getting them. It's a lot of trouble to go through. It's a pretty nasty bug, so you should believe everything you're hearing on the news. It's a pretty nasty bug, and actually the recovery was tough as well. I frankly never felt so much fatigue in my life as the first 2 weeks after the illness. So it's pretty serious stuff, but I feel very fortunate, and as I said, 8 weeks, and I'm back to the old normal.
Well, thankfully you're healthy, and it's great to see you. Now, while we're on the topic of COVID-19, let's talk a little bit about that in the context of Pure Storage. How did you guys change, how you manage the organization, as you started to move into this, and how has that evolved as you've been in this?
Right. Well, we were fairly fortunate in a number of ways in that, being a relatively new company, we had taken great advantage of SaaS applications. And we had we had used, in our case, Zoom pretty extensively, so that when we did go, and actually even prior to that, we started tracking COVID in January and started going through a lot of our contingency planning, our disaster planning. And every one of our teams had practiced working from home in a cycle prior to when the lockdown came about. So we were fairly well practiced. And also our supply chain team started making sure that we had product and supply distributed throughout the world at that time. So definitely looking at early stages of emergencies early and treating them seriously, because reports of COVID started coming out of China starting in January, and treating that seriously and working through your disaster recovery plans, is pretty important. When it did hit, it was very disruptive, as you might imagine, and of course, I'm sure it was for you and for everyone, in the audience. Very, very disruptive, and of course, we had the full range of responses, from individuals in our team. But I think because we were able to stay in touch both by phone but also by video, it really allowed us to build up the team members, their confidence. We were able to support them, whether they were working parents. We were able to support them, if they were young people living with other young people. We immediately gave them stipends so that they could purchase equipment to support, their work from home environments. And we had it very early on, again, starting in January, a Tiger team focused on COVID, made up of all of our major groups. So I think, again, responding early to emergencies is really critical.
Yeah, no, certainly. It sounds like you guys were really way ahead of the curve in that regard. Now, when you think about moving out of this cycle, and hopefully we all start moving out of the cycle soon, what permanent changes or management techniques and or structures that you think are going to be different for Pure longer term now because of what you learned during this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and I'll give you that sense, but I'll also tell you that it's given us a great. It goes under the old saying, "Never let a good crisis go to waste," and it is accelerating things that I've wanted to get done, for quite some time, but just couldn't get the organizational energy and interest around it, or to put it another way. Doing things in the way of the status quo is so easy for people. Getting them to finally rally around the things that are important. So what's important? I've told our team, and I'll be very direct with you, that despite the fact that we were the ones that brought digital to storage, if you think of rotating media as analog, we still operated as an analog company. All of our interactions with customers were face-to-face. We would do lunch and learns and dinners together, right? All of our development was done in the office with teams meeting on a face-to-face basis. And therefore, a lot of our processes were very people and not systems intensive. So, when this crisis, after a few weeks of this crisis, I told our team that we needed to shift from analog to digital, that we really needed to drive digital transformation, even within our own organization. That's a relatively new organization, but we relied very much on personal interaction, to get our work done. And so I think the things that are going to change are, first of all, it'd be very interesting to hear from our audience, themselves, right? But my sense is that I have been meeting with more executives. We've been meeting with more customers more frequently and faster between request and audience than we've ever done before. There's no travel time, not even in the car. People are much more available. The meetings are crisper. They're shorter because it's all business. Now, I do think the personal touch is still very important, but it's not important all the time. And so, first of all, I think we're going to move much more towards digital meeting environments. Customers want to know more about our company before they ever meet with us. And so making sure that's available on the web, making sure they can actually test our product without actually physically having to have one is really important. So again, more digital marketing, if you want to call it that, that's a permanent change. And then the real question is what the office looks like 3 or 4 years from now, right? We are an open office environment. Honestly, I joined the company 3 years ago. I've never liked it. The reason is, to me, it looks like a sweatshop. It reminds me of the old, sewing factories of right. Lynn, Massachusetts, right? I think two things will happen. One is we'll certainly have more, and this is, of course, everyone believes this, but, more working from home. But I think there's going to be more demand for individual offices again. If you think about the potential return of a pandemic, not sharing space might become in vogue again.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that this morning as you think about real estate, and we've got some leases coming up, and we're talking about, well, what's the capacity? How much space do we need? And we were having a pretty detailed conversation around, well, you might only have 20%, 30%, or 50% of your people there, so we got to think about that. And we said, well, isn't that a short-term scenario? There'll be a vaccine available, hopefully within the next 9 months. And the feedback was, it may not be.
Right.
This may not be a one-time thing right now.
Well, it may not be a one-time thing. So I'm a student of history, and certainly given everything that's happened, I started reading about the Spanish flu. The 1918 Spanish flu. And one interesting thing that most people don't realize is the Spanish flu actually originated in the U.S. In Kansas. It's absolutely certain that it originated in the U.S. And I remind people that the Spanish flu, which killed 50 to 100 million people worldwide, almost 5% of the population at that time, was followed by the Roaring Twenties. People are social animals. They will eventually want to get together again when they feel it's safe. And like the old song, they'll party like it's 1999. I do think that will happen. At the same time, they're going to be more cautious and more work from home, and I think they'll want more space when they do get together.
Yeah, that's where we landed as well. When you look forward again, as we're starting to come out of this, every leader that I talk to, in client side and on the partner side, they talk about visibility or the lack of the visibility. Yeah, how long is this going to be? When does it end? What does the recovery look like? How do you guys see this, and how do you manage your business with such limited visibility? And so many unknowns right now.
And so many unknowns, right? Because if there's a second, all bets are off if there's a second wave, right? And that's a true unknown. No one knows what this virus will do. So you have to focus your team on things that they can control. And this is actually very timely in the sense that, we just had our first quarter, right? And of course, at the beginning of your first quarter, you set your plan for the year, as we did, and you set your bonuses and all the targets that you want to set for your team, commissions and everything else, which we did at the beginning of the year. And less than 2 months later, we're saying, holy cow, that's all out the window. We can't bet on the plan that we set at the beginning of the year. So how do we incent our team, right? How do we get them really focused? And what we decided was, in good years or bad, the one thing that Pure has always done is grow faster than all of our competition. We consistently take market share each and every year. And whether this is a good year, well, it won't be a good year, but no matter how bad the year is, we should expect to grow faster than the competition. So we've retargeted everything in the company based on measures against our competition. So now, Bob, how our team is going to be focused on working with Presidio, we've targeted to grow at least 20% faster than the rest of our competition in the field. And this is something everybody can get behind. It's something we can measure. And I think, that's what worked for us. Now, what might work for others may have to do with some type of much more fundamental change that they want to build in their organization. Let's say coming out of it, if they're deciding that coming out of this, that their business model fundamentally has to change because the world would be different, then it might be about making progress against that.
Yeah. And we think there'll be a few industries where we'll see that for sure. Yeah. So if we turn to the technical side of it, what should clients be thinking about today in terms of technology investments that will help them be well positioned to accelerate out of this and continue to create success for their organizations post-COVID, post-recession?
Right. And that's a great question, because I think we've been thinking about it the same way, internally. And as I thought through, what were the steps that we took and are taking now? The first one is to secure your base, right? And now maybe this is past already for some of your customers, but maybe they're still in the middle of it. And what I mean by that is, the crisis brought out all sorts of urgent things. They had to focus on the urgent and just push aside for the moment everything else that they were working on, right? The urgent was getting people to be able to work from home productively, right? The urgent was making sure that they could address, if they were fortunate enough to have enhanced web traffic, right? Transaction traffic, being able to get that put into place. So just so the organization could continue working, focusing on the urgent. We're now transitioning to refocusing your team, right? So, you built that moat. Now it's getting the team reorganized. What are our new priorities in the business, right? We thought just 3 months ago, we thought we were working against a set of priorities, right? Now getting the entire company focused on the new set of priorities, right? And for Pure, that was one of those was analog to digital, right? Migrate a lot of what we used to be able to do with people working together face to face, right? And that could be face to face with our customers, right? Or with our partners, frankly. Right. And let's change that to more of a digital experience. It's not that we don't want to get together with you again, but the world is changing permanently to more digital experience, right? We knew that before. I mean, every company that we're talking to today has a digital transformation strategy. They just haven't been pursuing it. Most of us just don't pursue it as aggressively, because the status quo works so well, right? And now it's just been called, into action. And then, it's really about making sure that we're taking action for our future. The status quo is no more, right? And so, really focusing on where you want to be in a few years. And the one thing I would say is, we talked a little bit about uncertainty before. It really is about flexibility, right? You want to, regardless of whether you're buying something today or engaging in something today to deal with the urgent, you don't want to be locked in for 5 years. You want to make sure, because that thing you're doing that might be urgent now, you may want to move to the cloud, in a couple of years. And if you've got now this dead weight sitting in your infrastructure that you're still depreciating, that's going to put limits on you in terms of what you may be able to do. So one of the things you really want to focus on now is maximum flexibility, both in terms of your technical choices, but partner choices, et cetera, contracts, and all of that. Really, given the uncertainty, you want flexibility.
Yeah, so it's interesting when we see which clients were more successful converting to a work-at-home environment and converting their business models. And some industries you just can't do it because of the type of industry it is. But those industries that you can transact business more remotely or more digitally, we saw the businesses that were further along that transition. And to your point, most folks were moving somewhat slowly because the status quo worked so well. Those folks who were further along were much more successful moving into a work-from-home environment from security and from a standpoint of productivity and the ability to transact business, close new deals, et cetera. And so we're seeing this acceleration now with all clients around that digital transformation, hybrid cloud model, and it is about things like agility and flexibility. When you think about Pure Storage, you guys initially an on-prem solution, and you've got a lot of solutions in the cloud now. Talk to us about how Pure can continue to support our clients as we move towards a hybrid cloud environment with what you're doing today. And I know that you're in the middle of Accelerate, right? So you've got some product announcements going on as well.
Right. So our Accelerate conference is on the same day, is on today. And so, but of course, because now it's digital, you can get to it at any time. So, the content, one of the great things about digital is that people don't have to travel, but also the content can always be fresh. So that's the plan overall. Look, I think the best way to describe it is to describe what we've also decided as our team as part of COVID that our Pure as a service model is really the right type of model for the current time. And so let me just explain that for a moment. Pure as a service brings the as a service model to the full multi-cloud environment in every way that customers actually expect. So what Pure as a service is it brings the cloud model on-prem to the enterprise, but does it in a way where it ties directly into the hyperscaler cloud model as well. So what do I mean by that? Pure as a service is a true service offering in that a customer decides that they want to contract for a certain amount of storage, on a monthly basis, but only pay for what they use when they use it, and most importantly, where they use it. So they don't buy an array. They don't even understand necessarily that an array exists. Of course, at the end of the day, a service is always on top of hardware somewhere, right? In the case of Pure, it's either on your hardware, or it's on the hardware that exists in the hyperscaler, right? Because at the end of the day, they've got data centers with hardware in there. With Pure as a service, a customer says, well, I want, today I might want some storage on-prem, and we provide that, but the customer only pays for what they use, and we manage it. So it's a true service offering where they pay for it as a service on a monthly basis. But it is a unified contract with our capabilities in the cloud called Cloud Block Store, which today is available on AWS. We're currently in beta in Azure, as Presidio knows, because you're a beta customer, and will be available late this summer as a general availability on Azure. But it's a single unified contract, the same software in all those locations, meaning that your application doesn't have to be refactored for data, in any of the clouds, and can be moved on-prem to AWS, from AWS to Azure, from Azure back to on-prem. We'll be doing Google in the future. So think of it this way: it is a multi-cloud service offering that can be offered, also in your own premise or in a colo. And as I said, pay as you go, which is a very nice feature, and only pay for what you use. So you could start, whereas you might want to, normally you might buy an array, and you're thinking, well, what do I need over a 3-year period? Maybe 100 terabytes, so I've got to buy 100 terabytes. And first year, you're only using 20 or 30, right?
Right.
In the case of Pure as a service, you just say, well, I'm going to start out the first year with 20 terabytes or 30 terabytes. That's what you're paying for. And then your needs go up, but you don't even realize it. We're monitoring it. We and our partners are monitoring it, and our partners will just make sure that you have the capacity and the performance you need as it occurs. Again, we take that off the hands of the customer.
Yeah, that sounds really, really innovative. And it's going to be GA when, did you say?
It's already on Amazon, and anyone that wants to try it can just go to the marketplace on AWS and download it and use it. It's in beta in Azure now, GA towards the end of the summer.
Okay. All right. Terrific. Hey, now you guys have been. We're talking about technologies, and I know that Pure's always been focused on the business outcomes around the technologies too, and consequently, I think your net promoter scores are probably the envy of a lot of folks in the industry.
I've never heard one higher, so you're very proud. 82.
So how do you guys manage that, or why do you believe that Pure is consistently able to deliver such a high net promoter score?
Well, look, I think we have a great sales team. We've got a great support organization, but truly, I think the difference is in our product. We do non-disruptive upgrades. Still the only company that allows customers to upgrade year after year, not just software, but hardware as well. Over 7 generations of product with no disruption to their application environment. We're the only company that can go from literally box, from cardboard to in-service, in-production operation in less than 2 hours. We are approaching 7 nines of availability, of reliability, which is at least 10x our next nearest competitor. So when you enable your customers to go sleep at night and not have to worry about their free time on their weekends, it's amazing how much how well they think of you.
Yeah, so one of our joint clients is one of the 10 largest Medicaid health plan providers in the industry, and they had exactly those challenges. They wanted a solution that was evergreen, if you will, right? So one that had an easy upgrade path. They wanted greater stability. They wanted ease of management, which they didn't have with their traditional or legacy storage. They wanted to be able to add capacity on demand. These are all things that we were able to do with Pure Storage, right? And so consequently, they end up with greater reliability, greater uptime, and ability to be more agile, as they grow their business. So it was a terrific solution in that regard. It was great to partner with you guys on that. And so, and speaking of partners, you guys have been 100% partner focused on your go-to-market model. Now, I know you've been in the industry forever. So you were at Cisco when they were really developing the partner program, and you've been an advisor and on boards to many organizations. Like Arista with fellow alum Jay Shree, who's a good partner of ours as well. Why did you choose a partner-only model, and talk about the benefits it provides to the client?
Right. Well, look, being able to partner, there's no question that as an early stage company, we're a little bit more mature now, but as an early stage company, the only way to really maximize your ability to reach customers is by using a channel. But I would say as well that there are very few products that don't require expertise and integration into a larger IT environment, in our business. And what partners bring is all that expertise in terms of the full picture for a customer, right? The application orientation, the delivery of the full of the full experience to the customer, to get their customer-facing applications, up and running well, right? We bring, no matter how big you are as a company, you could be a Cisco, you could be a Dell, you could be an HP. You're still not bringing all of that to the picture, right? Mm-hmm. You're bringing your components of it. And so partners are what complete the picture for the end user, and we understand that. Having and then there has to be trust. There has to be trust between us and our customers. There has to be trust between us and our partners. And if we were a company that would sometimes do business with a partner when the customer insisted, but other times took the business direct, then that breaks down trust. You can't cheat just a little on your spouse. That generally doesn't work. The same is true, I believe, in a business relationship. You can't cheat just a little. I mean, you're either you're either joined at the hip or you're not, and you do what you can to build up those. You work very hard to be able to build up those relationships. I'm so glad to be able to have a great relationship with you, Bob, and with between our companies. It's very important.
Yeah, no, it's been a terrific relationship from the start. But you do bring up an interesting point as you're answering that question. It's a different world today than when you and I would work together back in the Cisco days 10, 15 years ago. We don't do a network project anymore. We don't do a storage project anymore, where you're very much operating in a silo with a single technology, perhaps. Now these solutions are converged across technology stacks. Everything you touch is going to have an implication everywhere, plus on the security level and the application layer. And they're very much multi-vendor. So a partner fills those needs where you're right. We see the entire picture. We're able to operate across all the stacks. We use the best ingredients that we can, right? With like Pure Storage.
That's right. Yeah.
In creating that solution. We did a survey of our client base, and then the broader market that kind of fit the same profile and demographic of our client base, and they came back with what they're looking for in a partner and in a provider is somebody who can integrate multiple technologies across multiple stacks. That's number one. Number two was somebody who would have ongoing support for me. Don't just install it and walk away. And the third piece was, we want to know that you've got a life cycle services approach. So, you're helping me with the strategy development and the design and the implementation, then the ongoing management, adoption, management, and optimization. And that's how we've built our business, to provide, those types of services to our clients. And we do it with great partners like Pure Storage. And I think it's more important now than ever, right? As we're moving very much more rapidly, right, around digital transformation and to hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Any other great announcements you guys are going to be making during
we are.
Accelerate?
We're making a number. a number of great announcements. First of all, we've really expanded the first thing that I mentioned, Pure as a Service, both for commercial scale accounts, but also for enterprise scale accounts. So we're doing a lot there. We recently introduced our, another reason why customers love us, is that our products are so highly performant, right? They're just not used to systems that don't need to be tuned, that just perform, and that they can consolidate a lot of workloads onto the same system, right? So we just released Purity 3.0 for FlashBlade, which adds a lot of resiliency characteristics to the system and really allows it to consolidate even more workloads overall. We are now in beta on File on FlashArray. So customers have been saying, gee, when are you going to get into the general purpose file share business? Because we'd like to be able to really transition more and more to Pure and to FlashArray in particular. So now we're going to be able to be doing that for its general purpose file shares as well. So we're very excited about that. And so I would say that, and then of course, we're going to be talking more and more about the CBS, the Cloud Block Store on Azure that you and I talked about. So these are some of the exciting new announcements we have.
Oh, okay, that's terrific. So folks will be able to learn more on your website and learn more by visiting Accelerate the digital platform, correct?
Exactly correct. Yeah, look forward to it.
Right. Hey, so I want to shift gears a little bit, Charlie, and go a little bit back in time. You have had a great career in technology in different technology segments. Not just obviously with some of the leading organizations in the space, but different technology segments. But you also spent a fair amount of time with Silver Lake.
Yes.
And you've got, obviously, you would look at a lot of businesses, and I'm sure you've probably served on a number of the boards for Silver Lake. Were you able to take anything out of that you learned that helps you, manage business today, or evaluate opportunities or investments that Pure might be making, and et cetera? What did you take out of that whole private equity experience?
Yeah, private equity. Well, it was a bit disorienting when I first went in because I came in as an operator, and I can tell you that private equity looks at businesses in a very different way, and it's all through the lens of a spreadsheet. Right, so they very focused on every aspect of the financial operation of the business overall. And what it taught me was that you can take businesses that are even having trouble, and you can turn them around. These are that a lot of times it can either be about management, or it can be about strategy overall, or just about reorganizing. But to be very, very honest with you, Bob, I think that what it really taught me is that it really always is about the team, right? Building a strong and focused and aligned management team and talented management team always turns out to be the most important thing. Those companies that would refuse to change with the times, or held on to people because they had known about them for a long time, but for whatever set of reasons they weren't really working well either together, or were beyond their prime or in the wrong job. The teams that hung on to that, inevitably failed, and it was only the ones that would hunker down, recognize the world that they were living in, make in many cases the tough choices. Were the ones that could actually pull out of it and be successful. So I have to say that what I relearned there, because in a sense it was relearning, was no different in many ways than what I learned through now, 5 or 6 market crashes, over the last 30 years. And that is that in times of stress, it is the teams that are strong, that have built a good business model all along the way, that are able to accelerate out of the transition, out of the disaster. And if you've not been building that all along the way, you're probably going to be in trouble. Another way to phrase it is, I do believe that companies compete in everything they do. It's not just the better product. It's not just a better delivery model. you're competing in terms of the quality of your finances, the quality of your HR, things that people don't even think about. You're competing on the quality of your P&L, all right, or even in terms of what your balance sheet might look like. You're competing with every aspect of the company, and it may not help you when times are good, because everybody the rising tide raises all boats. But it's when the corrections come, and they always come, and all of a sudden those competitors that were keeping up with you just fall away. And the poorly run businesses, that's when they founder. And so I think that private equity just retaught me that same lesson in another sense. It doesn't, in those cases, it doesn't always take a massive economic crisis to make them fail. They fail of their own accord, but you can rebuild the teams.
Yeah. So what is it that Warren Buffett always says? When the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yeah, there you go.
So same concept. And so we've been private equity owned for quite a period of time, and we've been very fortunate in that we've always had the right type of private equity partner at each stage of our business. And when I was focused on things like, hey, capital structure, how can I help you improve your capital structure so you're more agile, you have more agility on your balance sheet, you can make more investments, you can do more acquisitions and things of that nature. But it's very similar when we look at a business. You're looking at the technology, you're looking at the business processes, you're certainly looking at the financials. But the key for us is, what's that management team like? And it's the same with private equity. Do we believe the industry? Do we believe in the vision? But do we believe in that management team that could actually execute against that? And we've been fortunate, like I said, in that we've got, and we have today with BC Partners, great partners who let us run the business and provide support and help around capital structure. So it's been highly additive. Culture is an important thing too. You talked about teams and management teams. What's the type of culture that you've wanted to create at Pure, and what are some of the key aspects I think that you've learned through your career that you've taken away from any organization that you've been at before and said, hey, you know what, these are key pillars of the culture that I want to build within my organizations?
Yeah, no, culture. Now, of course, every company has a culture, right? And it either works for you or it doesn't work for you. What you want is a culture that really does work well for you. Pure, first of all, of course, I came in 3 years ago, and it had a lot of cultural elements which drew me to the company. In particular, it's a team that runs to a fire. You can't buy that sort of thing. That doesn't exist. That's one thing that's very hard to recreate. But it's a team that really does put customers first, and they run to a fire, they run to a flood. They'll run into a data center during the coronavirus crisis. So it's a team that really does go all out for each other and for the customers, and that was very important. I would say that the things that I wanted to change at the company was that reflecting its startup roots, it was a very collaborative culture, which a collaboration is good, but not if you need 10 opinions to get something decided upon, and not if one vote against is a veto. And so you do need to create, I believe, as well, an accountability culture, which I now believe we've created within Pure. And what that simply means is that you've structured the environment so that for all of the important functions, you know who's accountable, and they have what they need to be responsible for that function. That they actually have decision-making capability and will make those decisions. Because I certainly don't want to be making every decision. I believe it's every senior leader's job to put themselves out of a job. To make sure that they have the team in place where decision making can take place, so that their involvement is not needed in everything that goes along. Now, of course, that never happens fully, but you want to create an environment and a culture that is willing to take risks, will make decisions, and go forward. Because we're a company that if we don't continue to grow, we'll be in trouble, and we'll only continue to grow by continuing to be innovative, to outthink our competition, to be better to be the best of breed consistently in everything we do. And in order to be able to do that, we have to take risk. It has to be well thought out, but we have to take risk. And in order to do that, we need team members who are the type that will do that, but also that are accountable for the decisions they make.
And Charlie, a lot of the audience are technologists, whether they're CIOs or heads of various technology departments. You come from a technology background, right? Your degree at Brown was in technology, and then your advanced degree at Cal was in electrical engineering.
It was. I'm an engineer at heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know you've got obviously the MBA from Harvard and stuff, but so that bridges the gap for you from an education standpoint. But from a career standpoint, if there are folks here, CIOs or folks in the audience that say, I want to move more into a general business management and environment role. I want to be a CEO one day.
Yeah.
You think back on your career, what are some of the hallmarks that you think enabled you to successfully make that transition from engineer to CEO?
Right. Well, in my case, it was actually very simple. Even when I was in engineering, what I really wanted to do, very, very honestly and directly, was build great products and get them to market. And yeah, at one point in time, or at that point in time, I wanted to have my own company, but I figured that would happen eventually. What I really wanted to do was get great products to market. Now, in my case, those products were technical, right? They were, it was infrastructure, IT infrastructure. For a lot of the people in the audience, it might be women's clothing, or it might be, it might be shoes or groceries. It doesn't matter. If you don't love your product, you're going to have a hard time. I believe that if you really focus on the business at hand, that if what drives you is the love of the business that you're operating in, you're going to learn. You're going to learn about all of the elements necessary to be successful in that business. Building a product or building an IT function is just one part of that, right? The marketing is important. The sales element of getting it, and your sales strategy, whether that's a channel strategy or direct sales strategy, or maybe it's entirely online. But that strategy is very important, right? The HR and the care of your people is very important, and building teams is important. But by being in love with the type of business that you operate in, that will drive your interest level to these other functions that are absolutely required in order to eventually arise to the CEO role. There's another phrase that I think is very important that has to do less with specifically about CEO, but about getting the promotion. The next promotion, which is, if you, some people will say, well, I'm doing a great job. Why am I not getting promoted? And the answer is, well, you got to do your manager's job. If you do your manager's job, people will eventually think that, well, I thought he already was the manager. I already thought that he had that role, and you'll get the role. And the same is kind of true of, getting to be the CEO, which is that if you're starting to take responsibility, even if it's indirect, for these other functions, eventually you'll rise to that role.
Obviously, with the tragic events in Minnesota recently, there's been probably a much needed spotlight on diversity and economic opportunities for diverse peoples here in the U.S. How has Pure been, not just responding, but throughout your history, you've had a focus on this element. So, what's Pure been doing in that regard?
Yeah, no, we've always had a mission inside the company from an HR standpoint of diversity and inclusion. Now, I would say that we're still short on the diversity, front, like most tech companies, and it's something that we're concerned about. Would have put very specific initiatives in place to do better, but it is a difficult challenge, no doubt. But we're very strong on the inclusion front. That is that. People of, with different backgrounds inside the company. We've just recently done a survey that turns out, feel that they're very well treated, feel very part of the culture, and feel very included, inside the company. So we do feel good about that, but we do need to do better on the numbers overall. I have to say, and we put up a statement. I've made several statements for the company, both internally and now externally. We're very disturbed overall by the continuing challenges in this country. For not just for minorities, for underrepresented minorities, but also for immigrants. We really, from a personal standpoint, I just find it unconscionable. And it really has to change. We just can't have these consistent and constant issues of not just discrimination, but just outright bad treatment of not just individuals, but whole communities.
What we're doing here, the senior management team with Presidio, we're partnering with 10 of our university clients and providing a yearly scholarship along with part-time work and internship to diverse minority underrepresented minorities students if we could bring more people into the technical industry from a diverse standpoint, then that's going to benefit us as well ultimately down the road.
You bet. So education has been my pet charitable activity. And, what we found is that you got to get them in high school, actually, because the numbers out of college are just not high enough, in the technical fields, right, in the STEM fields. So while I've been working with universities, we as part of the universities have been reaching out to the high schools to get children started much earlier in the STEM fields.
Yeah. What are the jobs that you think overall in technology they're going to be available? What should folks be focusing on? And then more specifically, what does Pure look at when they look down the road and say, all right, we need folks who have skill sets in these areas in the next 5 years. This is where the world's going.
You bet. Well, certainly cloud skills, right? I think we all agree with that. But for us, cloud just is a way of thinking and a way of operating, not a destination. And what I mean by that is what people really want is for everything to be automated. And they want the programmers to be able to define every element of what they get, whether it's their processing, their network, or in fact, their storage. Today, storage is largely physical. It's no different than connecting an external disk drive to your computer, but then you can't share it with others. And that's true in the enterprise environment as well. What we're doing with Pure as a Service and with all of our systems, with what we're calling the modern data experience, is enabling your data center to operate like the cloud, completely automated, to where people who are dealing with storage are just setting up different storage classes and then allowing their programmers, allowing their developers to call upon storage and to call upon data management, and to have everything else done in the background by policy, whether that's data protection, whether that's tiering, or whether it is actually building that multi-cloud environment, allowing the same application to operate regardless of where the data is, and regardless of where the application is, on-prem or in the cloud. It shouldn't matter. What we want to enable our customers to be able to do is to be able to have that, is to be able to build for their internal customers that cloud experience, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And data scientists and cybersecurity experts, those are all areas when we look across a broad spectrum that there just aren't enough skill sets in. So
it's absolutely right. Data scientists in particular, right? Data science is going to help us beat this virus, but also it's going to help us to be more efficient as a company.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're out of time, Charlie. I appreciate the conversation today, and it's always great seeing you. And best of luck to you. I'm glad you're healthy. You look fantastic, especially in your pure orange shirt. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate your blue shirt. We're on the opposite ends of the color wheel.
That's right. It's Presidio Blue. So we got it right today. Our marketing people will be pleased with how we dressed.
It's perfect. Great. Well, Bob, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for giving us, this time with your base.
Well, it's great seeing you. We'll see you again soon, Charlie.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
I want to thank Charlie Giancarlo for joining us today and sharing his insights in so many areas important to all of us today. As previously mentioned, a recording of this event will be accessible on Presidio.com, and we encourage you to further connect with us at inquiries@Presidio.com. Stay tuned. On June 18th, we're continuing the series with a conversation with Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon Web Services. To register, please visit Presidio.com. Have a great day, everyone.